but now you have to approve that you know that.
Now we behave.
Okay, so the mysterious group of the CFC team send a few correspondents here, which are Yinon and Miguel and me and Dasha, and I think that's mostly that. And maybe David, we can discuss, because you wanted to discuss something in our meeting today.
Yes, I would. I have a few things that scratch me the wrong way.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
But perhaps it's just me, and then if that's clear that way, that's fine as well. It's not like I think I get to decide anything, but I do have a couple of things that I would like to bring forward. I've sent an email, which I guess most people would now know of. Either they got the email or they went to the Google group and saw that there. And what prompted my email was the newsletter, the CFC newsletter. But there are a couple of things that are basically triggered by that. But it's something that's been on the back of my mind for a little while. So when we look at what the CFC was initially, that was basically Elon's and Nicolas' brainchild, which was to have this first gathering of creators.
And Bernie Payton, if we want to have the details.
And Bernie, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Forgot, sorry. Some 5 years ago already. And that was probably one of the coolest. 6 years already. 6 years, yes, that's true.
Yes.
Coolest origami events I've been to. In many ways, it changed a lot of things as far as I was concerned, and probably a couple of other people as well. But in the meantime, within those 6 years, a lot has happened. COVID happened as well, so we got online a lot more. And what prompted a big question mark for me in the newsletter was what I perceive as advertising for a private event or privately organized commercial event.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm comfortable with the CFC being used as an advertising tool, if the CFC is, as I imagine, or the image I have of it, if it is some sort of, let's call it a community effort, which has no official standing whatsoever. So just to be clear, in response to your email, Ilan, I don't mind at all that anyone is making some money off origami. I think that's a good thing, because that if we get professionals in origami level can only go up from that. So that's not at all my issue. My issue is that there's some sort of gray zone between what the CFC is and how it's used as a commercial or commercial-like platform for advertising. Our experience with social media has been everything is for free all the time, meaning you're not the user, you're a product. I don't like the idea of being a product very much, and I am not super happy if that's what the CFC platform becomes. So, and another thing that I saw recently is that national origami organizations come in two flavors. There's the official ones. They're actually an official club or organization. They have a bank account. They have some officially elected people in them, etc., etc. And then there's the others, which are run essentially privately by people who are highly motivated, but on whom everything else hinges. So if there's any financial question around it, nobody knows what's going on because there's no record of anything that can be accessed. even for members. The idea of membership is actually not even very clear. It's never in that case. It's never quite clear what it takes to be part of the organization. Do you have to be friend with somebody, or you get chosen somehow by some committee, etc., etc. And I think that the CFC now has become pretty big. It's getting some traction, I think, and I do believe that it would be a good moment to think about whether we want to take that just a notch further and make it something that is halfway official. Because right now, it's basically run by really motivated people. But what happens, say, if, for instance, Ilan, since you're here, you lose interest?
Yeah.
What happens with the CFC? Who
That's a very good question.
Over anything?
So you're raising 2 or 3 different questions. I don't want to make it a debate between the two of us, but since I do sit in the right junctions, I think I want to address the first issue and put it aside because I feel that it's much less of important, because I don't see the big difference between announcing about a new book that I published or announcing a new event that I published, because I don't see the event as far from a digital video collection of models, which is just another way to teach models. So for me, an event of origami or a book of origami have the same essence. And I think that the newsletter that we just created is trying to help promote those products to sell more. So I didn't see you worried about the 3 books that we were publishing on the newsletter, but you were, yeah. Now I completely agree that it shouldn't be the first in the newsletter, the event that I'm promoting, and it shouldn't get so much attention, but that's what Andres did, and I'm not arguing about his editorial capabilities.
There is one big difference. There is a big difference between the books and the convention.
Just tell me what it is, and I will try to
Yes, I don't know who's doing the convention. I mean, the newsletter, it tells me nothing about. Well, first, it doesn't. I don't know when I just read the newsletter. Okay. I don't know that it's a commercial enterprise.
I see.
There's no organization behind it.
So that's definitely a mistake. It should have been clearer, much clearer, that this is an event that Guy and
I think that's where I got a little bit irritated.
I completely agree. That's without any discussion. No need to waste time on that. It should have been not kind of a CFC event, but it should have been clearer than this is another, although it's the same person, but it's another entity, and it should have been presented just like the books were presented or any future event, because definitely I would love Madonna, as I said in my email, everyone who feels that his event is relevant to the people who are coming to see what CFC is or being part of CFC should and invited to present it and market it through the newsletter, because we want the newsletter to be highly important to the receivers. We don't want it to be something that you just see the title and delete and you don't go through that. So if we are doing something which is not really directed to origami people, then it's stupid. So yes. I completely agree about understanding where CFC stops and Origami and Beyond start, which are 2 projects of mine, I can say. For that, I completely agree. And I'm sorry about that.
Those also raise the question of who is the target audience for the CFC newsletter? Because in my mind, CFC newsletter means for CFC creators, basically.
Not only, we send it also to the folders who register to the site to get information about new things in origami. And this is, by the way, if you think about it, this is our real audience. We want you as creators to make sure that your folders or your followers will join this newsletter. So it definitely will be a very important milestone in marketing origami issues. which we
But
don't
Ilan,
have.
sorry to interrupt. This newsletter is this first one is for creators only. If I am not wrong, there will be a second one for folders, right, Ilan?
No, we have two versions. One is for
version,
creators,
right.
and it will include everything, and for the folders, we'll take out the events that they are not.
Okay, right. That's what I mean.
So
okay.
we are not going to have two different, completely different, but we are
no, not really. Okay.
A full one and a thinner one or a leaner one is
right.
more for the folders, because we don't want to tell them about Mike Assis coming to this meeting and is going to talk about whatever he's going to talk about, because they cannot join. But everything that they can join, we want it to be there. So new free diagrams, new books, new event, new courses. And for now, we have about 250 folders on the list. It could be much bigger number, but it will take time, of course. If at all a newsletter is the right way to do it, I don't know. It's everything we do is we try. But
I may be in the minority there, but as much as I enjoy creating models, I don't actually consider myself much of an origami aficionado. I'm not much of a client for books and so on. And so that was also maybe one of the things that got me scratching my head. Why am I getting information about new books and new conventions and so on if they're not related to the
are you not looking for local groups conventions, to which one you are going to fly this time? And no? Okay.
But as I said, that I may be in the minority.
It will be difficult to make a newsletter that will suit everyone.
No, sure. But I mean, if we have two newsletters anyway, or two versions of it, I think it would be reasonable to say, okay, if you're interested in the creator stuff, that's what you subscribe to. And if you're interested in the other stuff as well, you get the second version as well, perhaps.
Yeah.
A suggestion, and just giving you a piece of my mind.
So can I say something?
Yeah, definitely.
What is for me a bit unclear is, like, you often say we do this, we do that, but I don't know how. I don't know sometimes who is we.
Okay.
And sometimes it is like you are talking about newsletter. I never heard about newsletter. I just got one. How was it when it was decided? Like, how can I be part of that process if somebody is interested to be part of that process? How can they join? Because I am, for example, but I never learned anything about it. It just arrived. Okay. And when I saw it the second time, and there was the first thing was the big promotion for your event, I have to say that I was also like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why should I see it as a first thing? And I understand that it was, but that's the thing, that okay, we can promote. For me, that's not a problem. We can promote new books, new things. I am interested to know what are the events, and I understand. Yes, it will be difficult to make a newsletter which will fit everybody. But there maybe are some options that, I don't know, you can sometimes have this, like, to choose. There are free options. Do you want to be informed about this? And I think there are some mailing list. I don't know. I know that there is some control over things like that. I don't know how it works, but yes, it should be clear in the newsletter that, okay, these are events organized by CFC, and these are other things, for example.
Yeah. So,
but as I said, I want to have the right to say something to the things which are happening, and maybe I'm not alone.
Yeah,
I guess
definitely you two both used the right way to say what you think. Okay, let's take one step backward. And I think, David, what you asked about is in your email, who are we and how everything is run and who is the team. And so there are two ways to create. Oh, yes, you want to say something?
Yes, for the newsletter, I don't mind either way, but I think if you have like a clear block first, the creator only things, and then towards the bottom, the more advertising like things, then for instance, if David isn't interested in it, then you just stop reading.
Sounds okay.
And kind of related to what you are, I think, going towards discussing, I just took a look at the CFC website once more. And maybe one very simple idea would be to have some kind of a list of who is doing what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So the bigger question is, how do we run things and how, let's say, transparent things are while running? And I have to say that I didn't really relate it to this in my email, because this is a much harder issue to clear or to decide or to handle. And definitely it's something that should be addressed sometime, somehow. And let me explain. If you want to have an organization that is transparent and it has a book of rules how to operate, and everything should be clear and precise and according to the laws, which laws, then this is something that I personally cannot handle now. And this is voting system, nominations every year, like the board of the Origami USA, that they have 12 places and 11 people who are running for this job, and still they vote. They have only 11 for 12 places, but still they have to vote, because that's the rule. The book of the book of rules says that you have to have the votes, and the vote has to be not digital, but you have to send. So every overseas member can sign that he give power to one of the people in the convention to put a piece of paper in a box. So they will all choose the 11 out of the 12 places that they have. And for this, you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need a bank, you need to be somewhere registered as a non-profitable organization, NPO, and you need to have so much overhead that this will kill completely the initiative that is called CFC. So we have one edge, or one option, which is the completely legitimized, transparent, controlled, authorized, formalized, all those rules. The other end is what is happening now, which is you have one crazy guy who talked to another crazy guy and convinced the third crazy guy, let's just do it. And whoever wants to do as well can join, but only if he is willing to do. We made, not a mistake, but we made an exception for this and created the directors of CFC. Some of it was to get some kind of recognition for Robert Lang, for Gebardo, David Brill, great names, Bernie Payton, who didn't want to be management, but wanted still to be part of this. And at the beginning, they had a very important role, but as we move forward, they disconnected themselves from the daily work. So they are not doing any active thing. And what left is the people who are doing. And the people who are doing is a list of about 10 or 12 people. Dasha is one of them. Wojciech is one of them. Yinon is one of them. Me, of course. Mike woke up so early and he's joining us. Hi, Mike. We still have half an hour. It's 5:30 a.m. in the morning for him. Just admire.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still organizing myself. Yeah.
Don't worry. You are invited to in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So for now, and you can say that this now is very long because we are from 2017 first CFC, yeah. But things, let's say, grew up slowly, and now the site, for example, which was a major change in the existence of CFC, whatever is under this title. The site, once it started to work, it was only after CFC2, somewhere between 2020 to 2021, Michael started to build it. So we are still in the phase that we cannot do anything more than whoever wants to do something, just join the team and do it. So that's the status that we have. We have a group of people who are willing to do and then thus do. And I can say that most of the ideas or the changes or the things that happen are coming from me as the one who is the craziest about this issue. But I'm not the only one. The newsletter is a result of a trip to, I don't remember which sightseeing site it was on the Bogota convention, and Andres was sitting in the bus with Michael, Shannon, and me, and Leon, and
Me too. Yeah.
and Miguel, and
Yeah.
and Michael Shannon was the one who said that we should have an automatic newsletter. So every time somebody uploads something new to then he can export it quite easily to someone who will edit it into a newsletter, and then the newsletter, which was up to this moment, a call for artists, a call for residency, a call for exhibitions that Miguel was sending every month. So suddenly we had the tool and the ability and the people to do more. And I'm in the spirit of, if we can and it's helpful, let's just do it. So out of those rough ideas, we had a few meetings, and then now we have a newsletter. Is it refined yet? No. Is it were we sensitive enough when we made the second one? I agree, no. We could have done it better. Is it a tool that can be upgraded and to the usefulness of all creators, especially Gerardo, who is doing events like every other morning? Yes, I think yes. I think we can reach a level that people will understand that the CFC is the hub of events because it's the hub of creators, and the creators are the hubs of all the events. There are very little origami events that are not involving our creations. So us being the major source of everything that happens in the origami world, why not to have the site that is the starting point for everything as well? And that's the main idea. So I think I answered some of the question about how things are happening, who are the people, what is the process. It's mostly a good idea and the willingness to do it, and we'll do it.
So I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump in. Someone is folding with their mic open and it's quite loud. I didn't think I would ever complain about the loudness.
Yeah, I think it's Dasha.
Dasha.
Maybe? Okay.
Yeah. Now, just saying all that, I would say that if within 10 years from now, there will not be an administration, voting system, a president who is voted and elected, then it's a failure. And once again, money, which is, if we are not there within 10 years, there is no future for us. As a CFC, maybe there will be another group, I don't know, but this cannot last forever. This definitely cannot last forever. But do we have enough attraction to say we want $50 per year as a fee member? I don't know. I definitely don't love the idea that we give a lot of content for nothing, for free, because I hate the idea that everything regarding origami should be free. But definitely, it should change. We have to start to talk about that in about 3-4 years at the latest, in order that it will happen. And there are some examples, like there's the Yampa, the paper. Miguel can tell you a lot about it. Some of the origami artists here are paying to Yampa every year a fee, I think. And
yes,
what
that's
they
right.
get from there, I don't know, but it can be done. It definitely can be done, as long as we supply value to the people who are paying. And that's the biggest issue, I think. I think what I'm trying to do in the coming years is to create value to every member of CFC. And everything that we are doing, just look at it. Does it bring more value for you as a creator? If it's not, then we have to rethink it. But I think the ability to promote your event or promote your book or promote your YouTube channel or YouTube course that you are doing, or your whatever, is a valuable issue. But I cannot say that publishing this in the POC event in the newsletter brought us maybe even one subscriber from that. I don't know how to measure that, but that's definitely what I want to achieve. To have a list of folders who are waiting to hear what news do we bring them. It was a long talk. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, that's a pretty good overview, I think. Thanks. As to the idea of being somewhere on the spectrum, either left or entirely right, of fully organized or not at all. Right now, as you say, it looks like we're really on one side of that. I don't need it to be CFC incorporated by tomorrow. Certainly not.
Yeah.
As to I don't know what it's like in practical terms in many countries. I know that in Belgium or in Germany, if you want to have an official standing as a club or organization, which is not made to profit itself, then the costs we're talking about are somewhere around 100, 150 euros to get started, and then 50 euros a year to pay for a bank account. So the sums are not incredible.
That's very cheap. In Israel, we pay about 300, 400 US dollars per year only to exist. And not including accountant that we pay another 500.
Okay.
So
that sounds
it's about $1,000 just to exist without even running money anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can explain in part.
I don't think you
just
need
finish
to be incorporated in every country in the world. I guess one place is enough. Pick a cheap one.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
By the time we get there, not saying we need to do this tomorrow. Huh? Okay.
Yeah. And
but if we did have a bit of an indication of how things are run, maybe not as formally as, say, Origami USA, which is a big machine anyway, but a little bit more transparent, like, okay, we are these people, that's how we chose them, or how they got chosen for this and that reason. If that somewhere was to be found on the CFC page,
I want to show you something which is a daily struggle, not daily, but a weekly struggle. Well, it will take a second because I have to find it first, but okay, I'll find it in a second. Oh, yes, okay. So we are a bit organized, yes, or maybe even more than a bit organized. Everything has a document, and they contact us, or is like, this is the list of open tasks for Michael Shannon to do, and it has critical, high, low, and yeah. So one of them is contact us, and there's another one which is who we are that I didn't write it here, but I asked him on WhatsApp that we have. And by the way, the CFC site has some kind of who we are and why we are here. Yeah, it's not easy to find. You have to scroll on the first page. What is CFC all about? And it gives a little bit of data why we are here, but it's not as good as having about us here and contact us here. So it will be easier to understand. And I'm going to put all the names of the same list that I put on the email, so people will understand who is doing what. But the struggle is that even, you know, the critical and critical here, yeah, it could be, I don't put dates here because it's so frustrating to see the dates. But as I said, and I will say a lot of times again and again, the amount of money we pay for Michael Shannon to run this site is zero. So it's very difficult to demand a priority in his daily work. But he did promise to finish something this weekend. Maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen. That's part of not being, let's say, formalized. I don't have a supporter which I pay every month in a barter, not in a barter, in a way that when I ask for something critical, I will get it in 2 days. It's an excuse, I agree. It's not a perfect system, but if we have a site and there's a problem to understand who is behind this site, it's a problem. I completely agree. It's not that we ignore those issues, it just takes time until Michael implement whatever I ask for him.
I'll go on record saying I'd be happy to pay a bit and you could have some donation or whatever.
Yeah, but then if you pay
professional service,
which account do you pay to? How do we monitor that the money doesn't go to my pocket? Yeah, exactly, and that's too scary now. Financial issues without an accountant and without a bank account and without complete and utterly transparent system, that's something that we cannot go into now. So we are kind of, our hands are tied because I cannot pay Michael, I cannot collect money to pay him, and then I cannot demand for him to do what I need or what we need. It's not only me, but what we need to have on the side to make it clearer. I agree that it is an excuse. It shouldn't be like that. I agree, but I see no solution at the short range. Maybe on the long range we can, but on the short range it's kind of given. Unfortunately, but it's kind of given.
Okay.
It's always the question, is it good enough? Because some people have the notion that it must be the best. Some people have the notion that it should be very good before you release it. But I believe in is it good enough to make a change? Is it good enough? Then it's good enough, which is hard to understand, but it's good enough. So I believe in the good enough, and I make mistakes. Definitely I make mistakes. And I take responsibility for them. I will apologize once you ask me about it. But that's how you do and move forward. Because if you want to be perfect before you release anything, then the book will never be published. And I'm familiar with at least one person that is fighting for perfection, and his book is still not, like 3 or 4 years late. And I think it will continue on, and the book will never be published. But that's another story.
That sounds like a her.
But I have maybe 14 more minutes to discuss. I think this is the most important discussion or the meeting of the CFC, talking about who we are and what is the CFC. And I definitely need someone to smack me in my face here and there to say, this is not your own project. This is not your private project. This is something that becoming too big to be belonging to you in a way. And we should try and make it better in ways that I don't really see now, but definitely we should try and make it more transparent, more open to the people to understand what are the processes. Yes, with the don't forget that we want to be efficient, because sometimes all those processes can slow you down to a halt. And that's something that there's no point in going into that kind of a process, that at the end you will just stop doing things because this guy is not happy with this and this guy is not happy with that, and then we need to vote, and then we need every time you have a committee, that's an issue. It's counterproductive to have a committee. Yeah, but we should balance. I agree. And if within 10 years we have everything, then how is the transport the change is going to happen? It cannot be from 0 to 100. So we have to find the 10, 20, 30 steps that we go through that. So what will happen? And I must say, I'm worried from the first, not the first, but the second voting, that then I will have no control anymore. Like we had in Origami Israel. For many years, I was the only leader and everybody was willing to do something. We're doing a little bit and I was doing everything. And until maybe the 4th or 5th convention, then we had a group of directors or a group of a leadership group. And then it's voting on everything. And we had argues and debates and shoutings and thumping on the table, but that's how it should be. You cannot do everything by yourself all the time forever. That's for sure.
No, that's true. But I'm not sure we need something which is entirely democratic, like a German Verein, in which you actually have to fulfill roles in very strict and structured manner. But something which would be akin to some sort of benevolent dictature, with some rules and some clarity in how it works. You know, so I'm quite fine with having it in some way restricted to people who are actually active and moving things forward. Great, they do move things. Power to us. That's perfect. Yeah, but just as Dasha said, it's not always quite clear where things happen at all, and we get the impression that things are run in our name somehow, but we don't know when something was decided or how or why.
I'm very happy when you say that you feel that once somebody says CFC, you feel part of it. That's an extremely valuable sentence to say to me, because I realize that CFC is becoming more and more accepted, or seems as the right place for creators to feel at home.
The title of my email was not a coincidence.
Yeah. I'm very happy about that, and I think Andrew is written, and I think you should read what is written, because it's important, and he cannot unmute because of his lag. Internet connection is not so good, but he's saying that every organization he's ever been to or part of was started informally with 1 or 2 motivated individuals, and at a certain point in time when the organization grew, then it is healthy conversation to have. And I'm glad that we are having this how to make formal CFC without waiting for something catastrophic to happen. So nothing catastrophic happened. Only David was unhappy with my promoting of the POC, which is definitely not a catastrophic.
Not a catastrophe.
Yes, and the best way to move forward is to start documenting who is contributing in what ways, and trying to formalize what each person does into a role that can be delegated to someone else. Okay, we have a lot of that. I didn't show you, but everything I do is documented in a master document, and I write down aim and who is doing what. It's not completely there, but because I'm lazy at the end, But yeah, I completely agree what is written here. And when it's time to formalize the organization, there's a list of roles and there's a list of procedures and checklists, what to do and who is responsible for what, and that's exactly what should be. Yeah, and I think we will do it. I think Dasha will write down how she's, actually we are doing it together, but managing the monthly meetings and yes, at a certain point there are too many rules, but we are far from that to have too many rules. Like I said at the beginning, the Origami USA voting for the board, the board is sorry to say, but stupid in a way, in a practical way, because you have 11 candidates and 12 seats. So how can you, who should be left out? Nobody. All the 11 can fit in and there's still a missing place. And they're doing all those voting, but not for nothing, but for the sake of having a process. And sometimes it's important, just the sake of having a process, a clean and open and legal, but as I said, we are still far from that.
Yeah, we don't need to go the full Parkinson's law way.
Yeah, I agree. But it's not that easy to balance that. Maybe because if you are an American, you understand it more. But yeah, maybe the Americans are going a little bit too far. A little bit too far.
In my experience, I agree with Andrew. It's right that way. We in Origami Argentina, we started at let's say a group of friends in 2011, I think, and we stayed there until 2019, so almost 8 years, just with a personal account, just to collect the annual fees, and just in 2019 we started the process to become an official association, and now the higher cost of the association is the accounting and the lawyers, just to keep the organization running.
Yeah,
that's it.
Money for
yeah, that's right. And just a couple of years before, we started our own account as association.
Yeah,
and it's been a nightmare to get it.
Yeah, and you have to show every year so many forms.
Yeah,
that can kill your motivation. Yeah, we need to find the only state that allows NPOs to be much cheaper and without little, and then we will register CFC in a small island in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, Delaware, they say that it's easy there.
Yeah, somewhere, not in the USA, for sure not in the USA. They are crazy. Yeah. Anyway.
But I just wanted to make a comment about what Dasha says about taking part in the newsletter production. Until now, it's only Andres Sanchez who is doing all the work because Michael did all the automatic part, so that the process is quite, I wouldn't say simple, but it's simplified to a point that only one person can do it. But I would say that you can contact him, and if you have any new ideas, maybe they can work together.
Miguel, you are also taking part in the newsletter because you are collecting the data for the call of
right. Yeah, sure.
This is something that nobody is doing. All the other stuff supposed to happen by the fact that you uploaded something. Every new book that is uploaded to the site in the last month will pop up into Andres' list of what can I publish. Hopefully this weekend, Michael is going to add publish my event. So every one of you can upload an event, and there is a form to fill and upload an image and upload whatever. It will be moderated, of course, but once we have there, you upload your event, it will appear in the news page on the CFC site, and it will be part of the newsletter automatically. That's the idea. of course, it has to be approved because I still have, I didn't save it, but one of the registrants to the CFC, his social media link was to a porn site. So, yeah, and, you know, it was before your time. You don't have to look so surprised. And he looked so dignified. I said, he cannot be an origami artist. He was wearing a suit and a papillon in his profile image. So I took a deeper look and I clicked on the links, and it was a porn site who can, you can order, okay, let's not go into the details, but so it has to be moderated, of course, but only on the level of making sure that it's not like a bullshit site or a bullshit event even. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. We have 2 minutes.
Well,
I want
yes,
to...
yes, I will. I just wanted to say that sometimes it feels like, for example, for Joseph Zavart, I think it would be nice to discuss it directly before it is run again. And I feel like, yes, I would like to be at that moment when it is discussed. And I'm pretty sure there are more people like me who would like to be part of something which is organized. But it feels like, no, it just happens. And without giving the chance that I'm pretty sure there are people they have something to say to the things, how they are run. And I know that we are trying to discuss it during these meetings, but it feels like, okay, we discuss and then something happens. Yeah. And there is no direct, like, yes, I would like to, I think sometimes I can have maybe some helpful ideas or not, but that's for other people to decide. But I certainly am interested to be part in this decision process. Like, for example, yes, we have a web page. I understand it's totally, Michael is working for free and it's a lot of work, but still we can have discussion what we want, how we want that website to look like, because once it's really decided well, I think it's easier to implement. So, like, for example, how Joseph Zavart's voting system is made, and these kind of things, like kind of practical or how we do the processes, and that's what is missing for me. Okay. So I would love to relate to that, and I will, if not in this meeting, then in the next meeting. But I did promise Michael at least one, not at least 1 hour, and he woke up at 5:30, even earlier. I want to give him his full time, so I'm not ignoring the issue. I'm just leaving it for later because it will open a discussion, and I have a few things to say about it. But okay, I'll just stop here because otherwise I will be wasting this time. So Michael, first, thank you again for doing it in such a bizarre hour. Although Goran will tell you that it's a common time for him to wake up for us. But then I'm truly happy that you are awake and down under somewhere, and the time is yours. This whole time is yours. So
no.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just organizing myself. So, and I'm having some computer issues. So I have 2 laptops at the moment. I have my work laptop and my personal laptop. So I'll be speaking through the one laptop and my videos through another laptop.
So which video should you want me? I actually see only one. The other one is only, no videos. I cannot add it to the screen or anything. From where are you going to share your screen?
I will share from both throughout.
Once you share it, it will pop out.
Yeah, and it says host disabled participant screening, so I'll need your permission to share.
Sorry. Yeah, now it's enabled.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, let me just
Oh, don't worry. So this is a suggestion that Mike sent us for Bogota for CFC3. And unfortunately, Bogota and Australia are completely opposite on timing. So when we were in the talks, he was completely asleep. And now it's a good timing for us to see what he was planning to speak during CFC3.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize, I may not be as organized today. I actually forgot about this particular date. I knew it was happening at some point, but until a few days ago, I didn't remember, and I've been a bit sick, so I'm not quite as organized. But I gave this talk about a year and a half ago, so I'll talk a bit about it. So first, I want to just give a bit of background. I've done a lot of representational work in the past, and let's see if you can see my other screen. So I've done things like, rubber chickens. I don't know how well you can see the rubber chicken, but
yeah, I switched from share screen to you, so we can see, I think.
Yep. Okay. And I've done geometric work more recently. Still doing representational work. So here's, it's kind of like 3D corrugations. So,
cool. Yeah.
So I've done a bit of representational geometric, and I started getting into curves at one point. So that's today's topic. So first I want to talk about the software Ori-revo, and maybe most of you are very familiar with it. If not, sorry, I'm going to just share my whole screen, I think. That makes sense. Ori-revo is both software that you can download, although you always have to fight with Java because it runs not just on Java, but the Java 3D API. And I tried running it today quickly to see if it would work, and the main program worked, but the 3D aspect wasn't working. So it's always a fight. However, June Mitani was a guest at the Australian convention last year, and Winnie Lung, she convinced him to make it more accessible. And now if you go to June Mitani's website, you go to software, and then Ori-revo, then there's a JavaScript version. So you can run this now in your browser. And just in case anyone's not familiar with it, Ori-revo is this nice little program. Sorry, where you can set a profile for a shape. So here's the 3D shape, and the profile of it is the profile that I chose here. And you can drag things around, and you can see how the crease pattern changes and the 3D output changes. And there's some very nice options. So there's the grid. You can turn the grid on and off. So you can have it, you can just move it arbitrarily, or you can have the grid on. And there are different, first, maybe let's talk about how many flaps, how many sides there are. So at the moment there's 6. It's a hexagon kind of shape, and you can see that in the crease pattern. But you can change that. So if you want 10 sides, this is what it looks like, yeah? So it's a nice little program. And okay, so you'll notice that in this shape, Mahiar, if you just Google June Mitani, you'll find his website. So this is June Mitani. Okay, so if you look at this 3D shape, there's a bit of paper that sticks out here to the left. You can see it's this flap that comes out, yes? And you can make that longer, so you can make it very big, for example. Here. Or you can make it go down to the minimum size. So the minimum size would be where it comes to a point on this edge here. You can see in the crease pattern as well. In the crease pattern, it comes to just a point. but you always have some kind of flap in this method. And this is a bit asymmetrical, right? Because here the flaps are all going clockwise. But that's where this model type comes in. So where it says model type, if you click on the second button, then you still have a flap, but the flap, it goes on both to the left and to the right of each of the corners. And you can see in the crease pattern here that it goes in and out. Now, this crease pattern looks like there's some interesting overlap here. Oh, it looks like here, well. Anyways, so that's one mode, the symmetric mode, but sometimes you get things intersecting, so that may not be good. There's another mode, which is this mode. Let me make this a bit smaller. Okay, so you can actually then, instead of having a cylinder, so the first model is based on a cylinder, yeah. So you have a long rectangle and then you attach the ends together to make a cylinder. But you can have it, you can start as a hexagon and then the sides will come up and around. So let me delete some of these points here. So you can see here now that it's kind of like a vase. So it's closed at the bottom, open at the top. And with this mode, you're forced that the first point always has to be aligned to the center line. Again, there's a symmetrical version of this. So here's the symmetrical version where the flaps go left and right around each of the corners. Let's go back here. So I'll show you a few more options. So there's a recent addition to this. It says draw gluing area. So this crease pattern, as nice as it is, it's not very practical because it assumes that the left edge of the rectangle and the right edge just come up right next to each other. And so there's no way to glue it. So there's this little option that says draw gluing area. It's a new option in the online version. And that will form this little tab here that when you wrap this around into a cylinder, then you can glue that to the other side. So that's very convenient. Now, what does this have to do with curves? Well, there's this nice little option here called smooth. And if you start clicking smooth, it starts adding extra points and subdividing that profile that I gave. And so that it approximates a curve. So that's very lovely. And this is how Jun Matani designs a lot of his models. So if you've looked at his books, you know, they're based off of this program and his playing around with it. All right, so this is very beautiful. And so I wanted to play around with curves. And I wanted to explore things. And my background is in mathematical physics. And so I wanted to look at not just a shape that I created by clicking on the screen, but I wanted a shape that was mathematical. But this program doesn't allow you to do that, right? This program, you're just clicking things. So I wanted to understand, well, what's the relationship between the shape that you give here and the shape of the crease pattern? They're not the same shape. There's a difference between this curve and the curve in the crease pattern. And so that took me down a journey. So I'll talk a bit about that. Now, in order to, before looking at a curve, I just wanted to first understand something very simple, just very simple polygons, right? And if you look at the crease pattern, you can see that each of the crease pattern is based on degree 4 vertices. There's always 4 creases coming together at a point. even when you make this very, very smooth, oh, it's hiding. The program's, okay, there it is. Even when you start making this smooth, like a curve, there's always 4 creases coming together. So I thought, well, that sounds simple. How hard can that be? Yeah. So the first thing I realized was rigid foldability, that Ori-revo assumes that the paper is rigidly foldable, and that's what allows you to get the exact angles that you need. That when you put in these creases, then all the faces are not bending. The only thing bending are the creases, and therefore the paper will do what you want it to do. So if I undo the smooth, you know, so it's always assuming very flat surfaces, perfectly flat. So I thought, okay, well, that seems okay. Let me close this. And rigid foldability is a very interesting area of origami mathematics. And I didn't realize this until a few years ago, but it turns out that any choice of 4 creases coming together at a point will always fold, whether or not it fulfills the flat foldability criteria. It will always fold up to a point, and it will fold until 2 of the surfaces hit each other. So that's how you can get some of these curves. It was very interesting. You know, we're so used to thinking about flat foldability in origami. We're used to thinking about, you know, Maekawa's theorem, Kawasaki's theorem, all these theorems. But you can throw that out the window as long as you're okay with things not folding all flat. You know, any choice of angles, as long as you have 4 creases coming to a point, they will always fold up until some dihedral angle where 2 of the surfaces come together. So I thought that, you know, I don't think this is very well known. This is in Robert Lang's book on the tessellations book. I forget the name. So I started looking at the formulas in Robert Lang's books, and I thought, well, okay, he gives formulas for how these surfaces fold in 3 dimensions, you know, whenever you have 4 creases coming together to a point and it's rigidly foldable. You get these various equations from his book, and I thought, okay, well, maybe this is my starting point, and I just need to then take the limit where these things become smooth and you get smooth curves, because at the end of the day, I wanted curves. But it didn't work. It seemed to fail. You get divisions by 0, you know, as soon as things start, you know, you start taking limits. So that was a failure. However, if you keep reading Robert Lang's book, some of the later chapters actually have the mathematics of Ori-revo. So, you know, actually his chapter 10 gives a good description of all the mathematics that you need for Ori-revo, from which you can then take a limit. So I'm not going to go through in all detail, you know, what he talks about, but his idea is based on a polygon. So this is not the cylindrical case now, so I'm going to start with the polygon case. So here you have some polygon, and the idea is that you're taking some of the surface and you're kind of wrapping it around the shape that you want, and you want to approximate that shape. And in 3 dimensions, you want to you realize that however far you go from the origin outward, this distance r, that distance r needs to kind of wrap itself around the shape that you're interested in. And there's always a width to the paper that is used as you start wrapping around. So those are 2 important quantities. Yep. So there's your R. The R is wrapping around. Yeah. And in addition, you have a central axis through to the shape that you want. So here, the central axis here is the Z, the Z coordinate here, a Z direction. And X here represents the distance from the central axis to a point on your shape. Okay, so that starts defining some variables. And like I said, you're going outward a bit. That's your W. The W gives the width of the face of your shape. So here's an example then. So here's your polygon, and you have your center, and you can see that the shape has these triangle wedges. And within these triangle wedges, then there is a distance W for each of these faces as you go outward. And as you're wrapping this around, then as you follow this crease, that's that distance R from the center outward as you start wrapping around the shape. So, you know, I'm not giving the equations, but it's just a way of thinking about kind of how to define the problem. Instead of doing it the way I was trying to do it by looking at those very complicated equations, you can start by, you know, just thinking about polygons. And so this is the asymmetric case where you have a bit of a flap going out, and you need to take into account some extra paper going out. So that's this distance, let's see, from D to B here. So D to B to A. So some of the paper is wasted by going into this flap, but that wasted paper is needed for this to work. All right, I'm not going to go into the equations. In the symmetrical case, your wedge shape changes, but the mathematics is just very similar. And then you have extra paper that goes left and right. So the cylindrical case is quite similar. It's not very different. So now instead of triangles, you have these rectangles. And at the end of the day, you get some equations. Now, these equations, you may not know very much what these are, but essentially, if you're given some curve x in terms of z, then if you take this integral, the square root of 1 plus the derivative square of your curve, then you can get the right crease pattern. So this is a generalization now from the polygons. So from these polygons, now you can take the limit and you get something nice. And you'll say, well, this still is pretty complicated. Yeah, it's not very simple, but there's a name to this integral. The name, what you're doing in doing this is you're calculating the arc length of your curve. So as you go along your curve, you're calculating what is the total distance you've traversed so far. So it's very nice, and you can do this parametrically. So I wanted to implement this. I don't know Java, so I couldn't, you know, just modify Ori-revo. Not that I could anyway. I don't think it's open source. So I decided to implement this in Mathematica. And so the way I wanted to implement it, I tried the simplest case, which is the cylindrical case with asymmetric flaps. So that's the easiest starting point. I made it so that you can do it parametrically for those who know what that is. That way you can define curves in certain cases. In the general case, you're not going to get a nice closed form solution to this integral. In most cases, you just have to deal with this numerically. But in some simple cases, you can get some nice equations. Then you can choose the number of wedges, the number of gores. You can choose a flap width, and you can choose the size of that glue tab. And in the end, I came up with a bunch of these lampshades. Now I'm going to stop sharing on this computer, and I'll show you what the program looks like on my other computer. Any questions so far? Sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat very carefully. Any questions?
Nothing directly to you.
We are in a
What?
nothing.
All right, so okay, so now this may look complicated, but at the top here, I've defined a curve, the arc cosine, and I've set limits. And here, this is what it looks like. And then I do a bunch of calculations. And then there's the crease pattern, so I can export this. There's a little tab, and I can, this is 6, so there's 6, this is 6-sided. I can change this to, let's say, let's make this 4, for example. And there's 4. I can change the tab at the end, you know, I can make the tab very, oops, what I do? Make the tab very wide. So now I have a wider blue tab. So it works. And so I started having a lot of fun with this. In fact, if anyone has a favorite curve, maybe we can try it out. You can either tell me or we can. Yeah.
I didn't know you can have a favorite curve.
Yeah, well, yep. So, you know, there are different things. So I had a lot of fun with this. And I plan to release this. At the moment, it's not as usable as I would like it to be, but I'm happy to share with you. If anyone emails me, I'm happy to share these worksheets with you. You'll have to wait a little longer for something a bit more general purpose and more usable, but I'm happy to share what I have at the moment. And I've generated a lot of crease patterns. So if you want crease patterns, I'm happy to share those as well.
And now, when you say lampshades, can we see the lampshades?
Yes, I have some with me. So let me go back to screen sharing. This is my other one. Sorry. Now, I've since I wrote this talk, I no longer have as many lampshades because I've given some away. So this cosine one is quite nice. That is this top middle one here. So if you want one to fold, it's really nice. But if you slant the cosine curve, so it's still a cosine curve, but it's slanted, then I have this one here with me. And you have to look at my other screen. And here is this one.
Nice.
And if I turn this the right way, sorry, you should be able to see it's maybe not folded that carefully, but it's a cosine wave. Yeah, it's just slanted.
Yeah.
And oh, now let's go back to the cosine. The interesting thing is, like I said, that formula doesn't always give an actual closed form result, but in simple cases, it doesn't give a closed form result. So for cosine, the formula for the curve of the crease pattern it is this, where E is the elliptic integral E, and these are your coordinates for R and W. So this curve.
I can't hear you. I don't know about the
on the crease pattern, which is an elliptic integral of the second kind. Oh, hello. Oh, my internet connection's unstable, it says. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
All right. So I was just saying that in some simple cases like the cosine, the equation for the curve of the crease pattern, you can actually get it into a nice closed form solution, like in this case. So here, it involves this elliptic integral. And so this curve on the crease pattern, which involves an elliptic integral, after folding, will form into a cosine. And, and the slanted one likewise. This one is a curve called a tractrix, and I made a mathematical joke that 8 o'clock is such a drag, because the tractrix for a curve was the first transcendental curve that was discovered, and it was discovered by Huygens in the 1700s, who discovered it by dragging his pocket watch on a surface along a ruler. And if you have a string attached to your pocket watch and you start dragging the string along a straight line, then the curve that's traced out by the pocket watch ends up being the tractrix. So, and it's this curve. And once again, even though it's a transcendental function, you can integrate it exactly, and you get this curve for the crease pattern. And I have that here. This one's very lovely. I really like this one quite a lot.
So this is what paper is it, by the way?
Ah, good question. So I was going to discuss that first. Thank you. So I use elephant hide, and I don't know if you can see, but I end up using very long strips of elephant hide, and then I print the curve, the crease pattern, and I glue it to the one side of the elephant hide, and then I trace over the curve with a metal tool in order to make a precise kind of a crease on the paper. That helps me. And then after I have the curves in, then you get something that starts resembling the lampshade. Now, I said earlier that the program assumes rigid foldability, and if this was perfectly, well, this is a curve, so it wouldn't be rigid anyway. But if this was a polygon, it would require rigidly foldable paper. And the way really for this to work, you end up really having to glue these extra little flaps. I use double-sided tape to keep these flaps in place. And when I do that, that works. And so you can get a nice lampshade, but it's a process to get it, into something nice. But it's elephant hide paper, and because of the size of these things, then you really need to use like a full sheet of elephant hide.
Thank you.
Yep. Then I looked at a logarithmic spiral. I have that one. This one I like as well. Yep. Yeah, I think this one's very nice. This one I couldn't find, unfortunately. I'm not sure where this one got to. This curve is actually the Gaussian, or the normal curve, which is used in science to look at all sorts of things in science. And in physics, you say that you make a discovery in particle physics whenever your data is at 5 sigma, it's called. So I have here 5 normal curves, so 5 flaps. And if I go back here, yeah, it's this bottom middle one. So I call this one Discovery because it's based off of the normal curve, and there's 5 of them. So I call this one Discovery. Yep. There's the equation. This one you cannot get a nice equation for the crease pattern. It's interesting though that the crease pattern, it looks almost like a straight line until you get to the middle part, but it's not exactly a straight line. It looks like it, but it isn't. And when you start playing around with different curves, you start noticing these things. A single sheet hyperboloid. No, I should. That would be great. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, thank you. So then I started going the other way around, and I said, well, instead of calculating the curve for the crease pattern that gives me what I want at the end, what do you get if you just fold on an existing curve? And that was an interesting problem. It's kind of going the other way around. So in other words, I'm choosing the crease pattern curve, and then I'm asking, what shape do I get at the end?
Mm.
And so you have to kind of reverse things around. The plus becomes a minus. And I started with something very simple. If you start with a parabola, so here you have x squared over 2, and you fold along the parabola, the shape that you get here, this shape has this equation. And as you go out to a distance of 1, so I think this, I was using different units for when I made this graph. But as you go to the end point, so it should be a distance of 1 using these equations, you get pi over 4, which is amazing. So you can actually fold the number pi, which is transcendental, by folding along a parabola, and then the resulting height that you get, if you look at the distance between, is it the height? Yes, the height. If you look at the distance between in the height, then you get pi over 4. And so I made a lampshade with 4 of these, and therefore I say it's pi. And so I made 2 versions of it. There's this version where there's kind of no gap at the top, but I made a version with a gap. So this one has a bit of a gap at the top for the light. And if let's see.
So this is the pi lamp?
Yeah, this is the pi lamps. So this height, if you fold this perfectly, would be pi over 4, and then there's 4 sections.
So, and when you say that, you mean that it's 100% accurate because it's mathematic?
It is, yes. Now, it's hard to get that precise with folding. Oh yeah, so you're not going to, in practice, be able to get it exactly, but you can get close, Sorry, there was something in the chat about paper, was it? Does the size of the paper matter? Well, I use elephant hide, which is, pretty thick. And then I'm gluing paper to elephant hides with the crease pattern. So it makes it very sturdy. So therefore, if you go to the largest size of a full sheet elephant hide, it's not going to droop. It's going to hold its shape. You can't go too small, but you can go small enough. Where's my Track Tricks paper? It's a small lampshade. It works well. Yeah, so if you look at cubics, then instead of getting something related to pi, you get then these numbers related to the gamma function, and you get gamma of a quarter. Instead of getting an arc sine as your in your equation, you start getting elliptic integrals of the second kind, and it gets very complicated very quickly. And this talk here I gave, it was at a mathematics conference, so but it does get kind of complicated. But at the end of the day, so I plan to release a Mathematica code, and I also plan to release an Octave code. Why Octave? Octave is a free version of MATLAB, and so then anyone can download Octave because it's open source, and then you should be able to run it on your computer. Mathematica is very expensive, and the only reason I have access to it is through the university. But I'm happy to release crease patterns. If you want, you can email me, and I can, send you what I have. So don't be afraid to reach out. And yeah, I wanted to leave time not just for questions, but also at these meetings. Usually there's some folding that happens. So if you want, you can do some folding.
We are too lazy to fold. Everybody folds on his own. So because he has a project. Yeah. But there's a question from Miguel. Yeah, do you have any, let's say, commercial practical side to this?
Look, I'm too busy as it is with all sorts of things that I do. So no, I haven't thought about it. And in fact, I'm terrible at social media. So I've had these lamps around for about 1.5 years, and I still haven't taken nice pictures and posted them online. Let me see if I can. Does someone else write something? Oh gosh, you're looking forward to the Octave code? Yeah, sure. So yeah, Goran, you asked. Okay, so Robert Lang released a package called Tessellodica, and I haven't played around much with it. I think when it was first released, maybe
that. Sorry, I don't mean Tessellodica. There was a I think he released for his flanged pots, which is a similar kind of a rotational design system. And I think it was playable standalone in some sort of a free Mathematica player. But it's been a while since I've tried it.
Yeah. He told me about it, and I tried it once, and I made it out of brass, by the way. But it was accessible. It was, I don't remember where, but it was just out there. But it wasn't curved. Was it curved lines?
No, I don't think they were curved. I don't think that was a way to get
it wasn't curved.
Yeah, that always was the problem, I'm not sure if I've seen that, but yeah, I was always annoyed that I wanted an exact curve and I couldn't figure out. Yeah. And you're right about that you can produce a standalone Mathematica notebook page that anyone can use without having access to the Mathematica code. I don't know how to do that. Maybe I should learn how to do that. Maybe that would make it easier. But I think Octave is also nice, and it runs well. Thanks, Jens.
Jens is always quick to find the relevant
link.
He's
faster than me in copying the link. Yep, I just found it.
Okay, guys, we have enough time for questions. And although for me it was a bit too many equations, but ignoring those, I still find it highly interesting. And if I understand correctly, what you did above what June did was to do the curve not as a more and more dots, but to calculate the curve as it is, mathematically corrected.
Yes, that is correct. So it's a math. It is exact. Yeah. And I hadn't seen that published anywhere really. And in fact, there's very little published anywhere on the shapes that you get by folding along a curve. I think Janine Mosley is one of the few people who's actually looked at a curve and calculated what you get by folding along a curve. So I think her rosebud it's amazing. You know, very, very few people have looked at this problem.
So
there's Hudson. There's a Huffman work, right? The David Huffman, and
so he has some equations, but in the end, he never actually calculated what you get as a result. There's a recent paper where they provide some equations as well. Not quite in a as useful format, but it's correct. And I think I found that after I did my own, I think. So I compared notes and it agreed. So yeah.
So Mike, can I ask you to step a little bit backward and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm half Brazilian, half American. So I was 8 years old when I started on my first origami book. And at the time I was in Brazil, and I didn't know any origami people in Brazil at the time in the 1980s. Then went to the US in the late 90s. I was folding alone for a very long time until was about 2007. I went to first Origami USA conference, maybe 2006. And I went to many of the American conferences all the way until 2014 when I came to Australia for work. And so here now I'm actually now the president of the Melbourne Origami Group. We have a great group here. Stephen Casey is part of the group. Xander Parrott is part of the group. We have some great people here. In fact, next year the OSMI 8 conference is coming here to Melbourne. So I'm helping to organize the OSMI convention. So I'm hoping to see some of you here in Australia next year. We'll be getting hundreds of people from around the world for the OSMI conference, and immediately following will be the national convention here in Australia. So Tomoko Fusei is one of the invited guests, and we have people we're still inviting, and we're still organizing, you know, the website and the poster, social media, and so on. So, but you'll start hearing things in the next month or so. And I should also advertise for the Origami Mathematics Zoom meeting that we have every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, there's an Origami Mathematics Zoom meeting. It was Ben Parker. He's the main organizer of it, and I help a bit. So Madonna Yoder is there, Ben Parker. Goran's been joining us. Rebecca Giesking recently spoke. So we have a great lineup of speakers on the topic of origami mathematics, if that's of interest to you. I can post the link in the chat for this.
Okay.
And our next one will be in a week. So it's on a weekend usually. So in Australia, it's on a Saturday morning. In the United States time, it's on a Friday evening.
Okay. And what do you discuss?
Anything related to origami mathematics. Sometimes, well, for the next few months, we're having special guests. And but when we don't have special guests, then we'll look at maybe some papers published, or whatever different people are working on. Or I like to give puzzles and challenges to people and say, here's a puzzle, why don't see if you can come up with a solution.
Every other week. For how long is it happening?
It's 2 hours. And
how long? When did you start to do those meetings?
We started over 2 years ago, I think, during the lockdowns, in the pandemic, and we never stopped. And about a year and a half ago, we had a small little convention, actually. It wasn't publicized very much, but we got Tom Hall and Eric Demain there
That's
at
very
the small little
interesting to
convention.
maintain every other week for more than 2 years.
Yep.
That's some stamina that you have.
Andrew Hudson, you asked about minimal surfaces. Look, I've only really looked at surfaces of revolution. I haven't looked at periodic minimal surfaces. But maybe it's worth thinking about. And Philip, you're asking about Bezier curves. Yeah, sure, you can always approximate, but in my case, I wanted something exact. I wanted to be able to input a curve and calculate the crease pattern that will give me that curve, or vice versa. But yes, you can always approximate things reasonably well with Bezier curves, although you things like circles Bezier curves can't handle them very well.
So what is the minimum requirement for joining and understanding your meetings on mathematics?
Oh, you just need to have an interest, and hopefully, everything's explained hopefully well enough. And it depends on what the topic is, but we try to make things as accessible as possible.
You presented -1 minus cosinus over sinus and whatever, and I do
usually it's not
recognize...
at that level. It's
Okay.
not at that level normally.
Okay.
Oftentimes, so we always try to bring out paper and fold something, try to be very practical.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm tempted, but I'm worried.
Well, we've been recording, and we're hoping to start putting things on a YouTube channel, and that maybe will give you an idea of the level. But yeah, the topics are pretty accessible, I would say.
Okay. Quite interesting, I must say.
The problem is that in Europe it is about between 3 and 4 a.m. at night.
Yes. Now, we have had some Europeans join as guests, and for those cases, we've changed the time to make it work. And we're thinking of once a month having a meeting that would suit Europeans. We've done it a few times already, but we were thinking to do it as a regular thing. So if you're interested, get in contact with me, let me know, and we'll make sure to put you on the schedule, and hopefully we will really do it once a month at a time that would work for Europeans. Yep. Miguel, yes, great. Great.
Good. Okay, do we have any questions? Any question, guys? No. Okay. So maybe it's a good time to say thank you very much to Michael for waking up so early and giving us the result of his research. And you say that you are going to try to do it as a public service for people to log into some kind of a site, and they will be able to play with this. Will it happen soon?
Yeah, so for it to be a site, I would need to reprogram it in JavaScript or something like that. So I don't plan to do that.
Okay.
Maybe I could, but I don't plan to do that. But I do plan to release the files that you could download the file, like on GitHub. So if it's an Octave file, you can download Octave for free. If you go to my GitHub page, you'll be able to download the Octave file and then just run it on an Octave. Also, I need to figure out how to make the Mathematica code standalone so that you don't need to have a Mathematica. If I can figure out how to do that, then I can put that standalone Mathematica notebook on my GitHub as well. and then you can just download that and run that. But I need to figure out how to do that.
I didn't try it, but as far as I know, it is a standard Mathematica notebook run in the. You upload it to the Mathematica web page, and it runs.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'll need to make it a bit more user friendly first, and then I can do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say once again, thank you. And I don't know if we can manage to have the better timing for Australia in the coming meetings, but we will love to have you again. Our next meeting in June is devoted to Madonna Zioder recreating her talk from CFC3 because we lost the recording, and she's willing to give it again. And since most of you weren't there, I think you will find it kind of following the same, maybe not that much, but it's in the same category of what Michael just did, or Mike Assis just did now, talking about formalizing what she do in a mathematical way, and it wasn't easy, but it was highly interesting to listen to. So you are all invited for the next CFC meeting, which is somewhere in June. Do we have a date, Tasha?
17.
17.
Parabéns, Mike, Michel. Parabéns, Michel.
Muito obrigado.
Hoje eu posso falar em português.
Pois é.
I want to speak in English, but my English is not very good. But today is a Brazilian guy. Muito lindos seus trabalhos, muito lindos. Eu vou mostrar uma que eu tenho, que eu comprei. Eu não sei se você vai se interessar em traduzir para eles.
Kayla wants to show us something that she's bought. Yeah.
Falando de luminária, né? A Leroy Merlin vende.
It's a lampshade.
Oh, okay.
Oh, very nice. Yes,
E daí
very
vem
nice.
desmontada. Já vem com a lâmpada, tudo já vem desmontada.
Yeah. So it came that way.
E com arco, mais arco de metal no meio.
Oh, so she had to assemble it. It came with a metal ring, and then you assemble it.
Yeah, and you have to put it, of course.
É plástico dobrado.
Oh, it's plastic. It's folded plastic.
Yeah. Okay, so next time, I guess we will continue the talk that we had today, maybe, unless we find a better topic to discuss. And I still owe Dasha an answer about how to put some hands into the process of things that happens. I'm not going to ignore that, but it won't happen today because it's 5 minutes to midnight here. And yeah, so thank you all for coming. And once again, thank you, Michael. And we'll meet at the next meeting. Not every other week, but every month. We are not that persistent as the mathematical group.